Guilty of murder in the first degree. No! Extreme atrocity or cruelty.
Aaron Joseph Hernandez was born in Bristol, Connecticut in 1989. The younger of two brothers in a working-class Puerto Rican family, Aaron grew up in a small town where football wasn't just a sport, it was an escape. His father, Dennis Hernandez, was known locally as the King, a former athlete turned strict disciplinarian. Dennis ran his household with control, structure, and a temper that, according to some, crossed the line into violence. By high school, Aaron was already a standout, 6'1", fast, fearless. He dominated the football field, earning national attention and offers from top college programs. But everything changed in 2006. Aaron's father died unexpectedly during a routine hernia surgery. The loss devastated the 16-year-old. Family members say the boy, who once followed every rule, suddenly stopped caring. He began staying out late, skipping class, and spending more time with older friends, many with gang ties. According to police records, fights and street altercations became part of his world long before he ever stepped on an NFL field. Still, he played through the chaos. On the field, he stayed focused. Off the field, stories piled up. When Aaron committed to play college football at the University of Florida under Urban Meyer, many believed it would be a fresh start. But Gainesville wasn't an escape. If anything, it was the beginning of a pattern that would follow him to the pros. Incredible talent, surrounded by violence, secrecy, and silence. When Aaron Hernandez showed up at the University of Florida, he was 17 years old. Still a teenager, but already playing with grown men. Florida's football program was one of the best in the country. National titles, packed stadiums, NFL scouts watching every move. Aaron wasn't just keeping up, he was standing out. Big catches, big plays, tough as nails. He quickly became one of quarterback Tim Tebow's favorite targets. But off the field, things weren't as smooth. Aaron was known to party hard. He smoked weed regularly. Even during the season, there were rumors about fights in bars, anger issues. He failed multiple drug tests, but still played. One night, he was questioned after a fight at a restaurant. A guy ended up with a ruptured eardrum. Aaron wasn't charged, but stories like that kept coming up. Florida was winning, and Aaron was producing. So nobody pushed too hard. Most of the time, things were handled quietly. He played 3 seasons with the Gators and won a national championship in 2009. On the field, he looked like a future star. But when it came time for the NFL draft, teams were nervous. Scouts loved his talent, but didn't trust his behavior. He dropped all the way to the 4th round. That's when the New England Patriots picked him. Bill Belichick gave him a shot and a short leash. Aaron came in and proved himself fast. In his first season, he made plays. In his second, he helped take the team to the Super Bowl. He was young, athletic, and unpredictable. In a good way, at least on the field. The Patriots paired him with another star tight end, Rob Gronkowski. Together, they became one of the most dangerous duos in the league. In 2012, when the team gave Hernandez a $40 million contract extension, it was a huge vote of confidence and a public signal that his past was behind him. But it wasn't. Behind closed doors, he was still hanging with the same crowd, still partying, still paranoid, still carrying a gun everywhere he went. To fans, Aaron Hernandez was a success story, a kid who made it out, a touchdown machine. But to those watching closely, something didn't feel right, and it was only a matter of time before it all caught up with him. June 17, 2013, a quiet Monday morning in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. Just before 6 a.m., a jogger was running past a series of large warehouse buildings.
And so this guy was jogging, and he found a body. And he came over here and knocked on the door, said, "Would you please call 911?" So that's what we did.
That's when he saw something he wasn't expecting. A body lying face up on the ground, alone in the dirt. The victim was 27-year-old Odin Lloyd, a part-time landscaper and semi-professional football player. His wallet was still in his pocket. His cell phone was in his hand. His driver's license and cash were right there with him. Nothing had been taken. No sign of a struggle, no robbery. Just a man who had been shot 6 times and left to die. Police processed the scene quickly. They found shell casings, tire tracks, and footprints. But the moment investigators looked at Lloyd's phone records and last messages, questions began pointing in one direction. Odin's last text mentioned Aaron Hernandez, the New England Patriots tight end who had become one of the most talked-about young stars in the NFL. Lloyd and Hernandez were connected through family. Lloyd was dating the sister of Hernandez's fiancée. They'd spent time together socially. That meant this was not random. This was personal. From there, the investigation moved fast. Police pulled video footage from cameras placed around Hernandez's mansion. They checked phone pings, traffic cameras, and messages between Hernandez and Lloyd in the hours before the murder. What detectives found was a timeline that didn't add up, and it led straight to Aaron Hernandez's home. That same night, Hernandez made calls, wiped his phone clean, and reportedly smashed his own home security system. The next day, he was arrested without incident. Less than 48 hours after Odin Lloyd died, Aaron Hernandez, a man who was just weeks away from being celebrated as an NFL champion, was sitting in a jail cell charged with murder. The Patriots didn't hesitate. They released him immediately. Bill Belichick and team officials later called it one of the toughest decisions they'd ever made. What had started as a routine discovery of a young man's body now became one of the most shocking criminal cases in American sports history. And the evidence that would follow, including surveillance footage, phone records, and physical clues, would push this investigation into territory no one expected. After Aaron Hernandez was arrested, the case moved quickly, but it wasn't just one thing that led police to charge him. It was a combination of small, connected pieces, a web of evidence that slowly closed in. Let's break it down. First, surveillance footage.
Despite having picked up Odin Lloyd at 2:23, only 3 people returned to Aaron Hernandez's house. Aaron Hernandez, Ernest Wallace, and Carlos Ortiz. The defendant inputs the code into the overhead garage door opener. The 3 of them got quickly, before the doors even completely opened, into the garage. The defendant leads them through the house, telling them to be quiet. Ernest Wallace and Carlos Ortiz initially go down to the basement. Over the next few minutes, you'll see during the course of the trial on the video surveillance, the defendant is moving around, comes down from the first floor into the basement, moving around on the first floor. And you will see, ladies and gentlemen, the defendant standing outside of the entrance to his basement holding a gun. In the course of this trial, you'll hear from a representative of law. He'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that that appearance is unique. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a law.
Inside his own home, Aaron had security cameras running. On the night of Odin Lloyd's death, those cameras showed Hernandez coming back home around 3:30 a.m. with 2 friends, Ernest Wallace and Carlos Ortiz. Missing from the footage? Odin. What the camera did catch was Hernandez walking around his house holding something that appeared to be a gun, just hours after the time Lloyd was shot. Second, texts and calls. Earlier that night, Lloyd had texted his sister saying he was with NFL. That message, simple as it was a red flag. Phone records showed that Aaron, Wallace, and Ortiz had picked Lloyd up around 2:30 a.m. They drove him out to an industrial area, and less than an hour later, he was dead. Third, the rental car. Instead of using his own vehicle, Hernandez had rented a silver Nissan Altima. That car was later found, and inside, police discovered a .45 caliber shell casing, matching the type used in the murder. But there was one more strange detail. Stuck to a piece of trash in the car was a chewed piece of blue Publicious bubble gum. Store footage showed Aaron buying that exact brand earlier that night. That gum wasn't just a throwaway clue. It placed him inside the vehicle at the right time, with the right people, connected to the right weapon. Police also discovered clothing worn by Hernandez on the night of the murder had been dumped, possibly destroyed, and his phone had been broken into pieces. The destruction of evidence? That was enough to raise suspicion even further, and while prosecutors hadn't yet found the murder weapon, they were confident in what they had. Motive, timeline, text trails, security footage, and physical links. To the public, the case felt shocking, but to investigators, it was turning into something solid, a puzzle where every piece, no matter how small, pointed in the same direction. And for Aaron Hernandez, the image of an NFL star was beginning to fade fast. By early 2015, Aaron Hernandez had been in jail for over a year, awaiting trial for the murder of Odin Lloyd. When the trial officially began in January, it became one of the most watched court cases in the country. The courtroom was packed. Reporters filled every row. Every move was televised. The public wasn't just curious, they were glued to the case. On one side sat Hernandez, dressed in a suit, expression calm. On the other side, Odin Lloyd's family, quiet, grieving, watching every second. Prosecutors laid out their story right away. Aaron Hernandez, they said, planned Odin Lloyd's murder because he didn't trust him. Maybe Lloyd had said something Hernandez didn't like. Maybe he knew too much. Either way, the state believed Aaron had made a decision and followed through. The evidence was laid out clearly. Security footage from Hernandez's home, text messages between him and Lloyd, cell phone tower data showing the car's location that night, the shell casing in the rental car, the bubble gum, and Hernandez destroying his phone and security system the next day. It wasn't one big clue. It was the total picture. The prosecution painted it as cold, calculated, and personal. The defense told a different story. They admitted Hernandez was there that night, but said he didn't pull the trigger. They pointed fingers at the two other men with him, Wallace and Ortiz. No one actually saw Hernandez shoot anyone, they argued, and the murder weapon? Still missing. They also reminded the jury Aaron Hernandez was a young father, a son, a fiancé, someone who had overcome tragedy and made it big. Was he reckless? Maybe. But a killer? They said no. The trial lasted for weeks, dozens of witnesses, experts, emotional testimony. The most powerful moment came when Lloyd's mother took the stand. Her voice shook as she talked about her son, his smile, his dreams. The courtroom was silent. Day after day, Hernandez sat still. He didn't speak, didn't react. The same man who once danced in the end zone was now just watching it all unfold. Outside the courthouse, fans stood with signs. Some called him a monster. Others still believed he was innocent. But inside, the jury was paying close attention, and they were about to make a decision that would change everything. April 15, 2015. The courtroom was silent as the jury returned. After weeks of testimony, hundreds of exhibits, and long days of arguments, it was time. Aaron Hernandez stood at the defense table, hands folded. Odin Lloyd's mother sat just a few feet away. Cameras were rolling. The entire country was watching. The clerk read the verdict.
Madam Foreperson, on indictment 2013-983-A, charging the defendant Aaron Hernandez with murder. What say you, Madam Foreperson? Is the defendant not guilty, guilty of murder in the first degree, or guilty of murder in the second degree?
Guilty of murder in the first degree.
Madam Foreperson, I wish to state
Guilty of murder in the first degree. Mandatory sentence, life in prison, without the possibility of parole. Gasps echoed through the room. Hernandez didn't flinch. He blinked, clenched his jaw, and looked straight ahead. His mother sobbed. His fiancée cried. Lloyd's family held each other tightly. A mother had justice, but not closure. Outside the courthouse, reactions were mixed. Some people said the punishment fit the crime. Others still couldn't believe it. How could someone with so much to lose throw it all away? The judge was clear. Hernandez had been given chance after chance. Fame, wealth, a platform most people dream of. And yet, he chose violence. Back at the prison, Hernandez was transferred to the Sousa Baranowski Correctional Center, a maximum security facility in Shirley, Massachusetts. No more private chefs, no more game days, no more stadium lights, just concrete walls and steel doors. From the outside, it looked like the end of the story. A football star had become a convicted killer. But what the public didn't know, what even the court hadn't revealed yet, was that this case was far from over. Because while serving his life sentence, Hernandez was about to go on trial again. This time, for 2 more murders. A double homicide from 2012, a crime that had gone unsolved for years. And what came next would challenge everything people thought they knew about Aaron Hernandez. Just months after Aaron Hernandez was sentenced to life in prison for killing Odin Lloyd, he was charged again, this time with 2 more murders. A cold case from 2012 was suddenly heating up. Here's what happened. In July 2012, 2 men, Daniel Abreu and Safiro Furtado, were shot and killed while sitting at a stoplight in Boston. It was a drive-by shooting. 5 shots fired into their car. Both men died at the scene. They weren't gang members. They had no criminal records. Just 2 young guys out for a night downtown. At the time, police had no suspects, no motive, no murder weapon. But in 2014, while investigating Hernandez for Odin Lloyd's murder, detectives got a tip. A man named Alexander Bradley, a former close friend and associate of Hernandez, came forward. Bradley claimed that he was in the car the night of the shooting, and he said Hernandez was the one who pulled the trigger. According to Bradley, the whole thing started over a spilled drink. Someone accidentally bumped into Hernandez at a nightclub and didn't apologize. Hours later, those same men were gunned down. Bradley told police that Hernandez felt disrespected and wanted revenge. No threats, no warning, just gunfire. Bradley also said that Hernandez later tried to silence him by shooting him in the face and leaving him for dead in an alley. Somehow Bradley survived and eventually testified against him.
He leaned across me and extended his body out the window with the firearm in his hand. Before he fired the gun, he was like, "What's up now?" And he started firing shots. He said to me, "Did I see that?" And I said, "No." He said, "I hit one in the head and one in the chest."
It was explosive testimony, and prosecutors were confident. But this trial didn't go like the first one. In 2017, after weeks of testimony, the jury found Hernandez not guilty in the double homicide case.
What say you, Madam Foreperson, on indictment 2014-10417, offense 001, charging murder in the first degree, victim Daniel D. Abreu? You find the defendant not guilty, guilty of murder in the first degree, or guilty of murder in the second degree?
Not guilty.
What say you, Madam Foreperson, on indictment 2014-10417, offense 002, charging murder in the first degree, victim Safiro Furtado? You find the defendant not guilty, guilty of murder in the first degree, or guilty of murder in the second degree?
Not guilty.
What say you, Madam Foreperson, on indictment 2014-10417, offense 003, charging armed assault with intent to murder, victim Aquilino Freire? You find the defendant not guilty, or guilty of this offense as charged?
Not guilty.
What say you, Madam Foreperson, on indictment 2014-10417, offense 004, charging armed assault with intent to murder, victim Gerson Lopes? Do you find the defendant not guilty, or guilty of the offense as charged?
Not guilty.
The only charge that stuck was illegal possession of a firearm. Some people were shocked. Others said the evidence just wasn't strong enough. But win or lose, the damage was done. Hernandez had now been connected to 3 murders in less than 5 years. His career was gone, his reputation destroyed, and even though he beat the second case, he was still serving life. No parole, no second chances. But what no one knew was that just days after hearing the not guilty verdict, Aaron Hernandez was already planning his final move. On April 19, 2017, just 5 days after being found not guilty in the double homicide case, Aaron Hernandez was found dead in his prison cell.
Former football star Aaron Hernandez is dead in an apparent suicide inside a prison cell. The Massachusetts Department of Corrections saying the former New England Patriot was found hanging inside his cell at approximately 3:05 a.m. on Wednesday. Hernandez was serving a life sentence for a 2013 murder. According to DOC, Hernandez hanged himself utilizing a bedsheet attached to the cell window and attempted to block the door from the inside. State police are investigating his death.
He was 27 years old. He left behind a fiancée, a young daughter, and more questions than answers, Officers reported that the door was locked from the inside. There were drawings and words written on the walls in blood, and there were 3 handwritten notes left behind on a table. One to his daughter, one to his fiancée, and one that's still not fully understood. Next to his Bible, he had underlined a single verse, John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. The news spread fast. Across the sports world, fans and reporters reacted with disbelief. Some were angry, some heartbroken, others just confused. How could someone who once had it all, money, fame, a Super Bowl career, end like this? And why now? Some believed Hernandez couldn't handle life in prison. Others said he thought a legal loophole could clear his name after death. Under Massachusetts law, if a person died before their appeal was heard, their conviction could be erased. And at the time, Hernandez's legal team was already preparing an appeal. For a brief moment, it worked. A judge vacated his murder conviction. But later, the decision was reversed, and his conviction was reinstated. Still, none of that brought peace to the families involved. Odin Lloyd's family didn't just lose a son. They had to relive the entire case all over again. His mother later said, "I forgive him, but I'll never forget what he did." In the months that followed, more details came out about Hernandez's mental health, his personal struggles, and what was really going on inside his mind. And those revelations would lead to one final twist in this story, one that reached beyond football, into science, the brain, and the long-term effects of the game itself. Aaron Hernandez's story didn't end with a second trial. It didn't end in the courtroom, or even in prison. It ended quietly, behind a locked door, alone. He went from NFL stadiums to solitary cells, from record-breaking touchdowns to national headlines, for murder. And along the way, the truth came out. Piece by piece, the violence, the secrets, the silence. For years, people saw him as a rising star, fast, young, unstoppable. But behind the scenes, something darker was always there. And while the world debated who he was, a victim, a villain, a waste of talent, one fact never changed. Odin Lloyd was taken from his family, a son, a brother, a boyfriend, shot 6 times and left in the dirt by someone he trusted. His family sat through every day of court. They listened, they wept, and they stayed strong, even when the cameras left, even when the world moved on. That's the part we can't forget. This isn't just about a football player who lost everything. It's about a young man who lost his life. Odin Lloyd had dreams too, but we don't hear his name as much. Aaron Hernandez left behind millions in contracts, a fiancée, a daughter, and a trail of pain that can't be undone. What started as a story of success became a story of destruction. A reminder that fame doesn't fix everything, and behind the glory, there can be chaos. There's no final touchdown here, no comeback, no last-minute save. Just a sad ending to a life that could have gone so differently. This was the story of Aaron Hernandez, but let's not forget the name that matters most, Odin Lloyd. If you found this story powerful, or you never knew how deep it really went, hit that subscribe button. We dive into true crime cases like this every week. Real people, real stories, and the truth behind the headlines. Don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts below. And if there's a case you want us to cover, drop it in the comments.